All right, we are ready. I'm Joshua Lisec with Jim Giovannini, author of Elevating Education. Jim, let's talk about this new book.
All right. Thank you for having me here today, Joshua. I really appreciate it. So, my new book is Elevating Education, One Great Educator at a Time: How to Beat Burnout and Inspire the Uninspired. This has been a work that has really, as you know, Joshua, has taken me 40 years over my education career to build and write. But once I made up my mind, the stories flowed really easily. It really is exactly what the title says: How to Beat Burnout and Inspire the Uninspired. As you know, Joshua, I travel all over the country. I work in schools all over this nation through my company, Elevated Minds. Sometimes we're in the worst schools in America. On occasion, we're in the best ones, but there are some real common themes that go through there. And the common theme that I want to talk about is very positive, and that is, who are the great teachers in that building? And I'll be honest, there aren't always a lot of them because of burnout. Sometimes the system just completely beats teachers down to the point where they're just going through the motions. That's all they're doing. They're just trying to survive the day and the year and get to retirement and get to their pension or whatever it might be. And that's no way to run American education. It just isn't. There are there has to be other ways. And so that's what I write about in the book. If you're a teacher that is just completely stuck in a system and you're feeling burned out, I'm here to motivate you. I'm here to give you tools and paths of real world stories that work, that I've seen other people use and that I've used over 40 years. I hate to say it, but I'll toot my own horn a little bit. I am a great educator, but I'm very fortunate. I'm really, really lucky that I learned so many lessons. And honestly, having my own education company allowed me to learn so many lessons in schools where they wouldn't normally invite me in, but they do. And I only have a few minutes to impress these students or these teachers I'm working with and instantly grab their attention and motivate them and eliminate all the nonsense that happens in a classroom. I really think the book is for anyone that works with students. Yeah, it's mainly teachers, but think of all the people that work with students, right? Let's just, are you a parent? Well, you're working with young people every single day. There are a lot of lessons in there for you, for them too. So that's the gist of the book. It's getting great reviews on Amazon. It just came out. So yeah, here we are.
Here we are, yes. And as I regularly tell people who are my audience or clientele, future clientele even, there are many reasons to author a book in the current year, publish a book in the current year. One of those, of course, is because you have years, if not decades, of wisdom and experience to bequeath to the next generation, specifically to solve a set of problems that are very real and very apparent. That it also turns out your business, Elevated Minds, right? You have a business and now you've got the book. And if you're in business, in my opinion, you should have a book because books make everything hard about business easier. It condenses all of your life's work into one single physical place that would otherwise be very difficult to communicate the value of on a long-term basis. And in this case, this is a book that is solving teacher burnout, the frustration of, let's say, strong-willed children, or those who have some sort of other situation going on. And so the book is for teachers, of course, but also administrators, staff, tutors, parents, even homeschoolers, also who may be wondering if they're doing something wrong. And I think you have settled on the correct angle here that everyone knows of a great one that they had, a teacher. Right. Let's talk about that a little bit. The great ones concept.
Sure. Um, Everybody has a great one. Right now, if you're watching or listening to this podcast, I want you to go back to your school years. I don't care, from kindergarten through your postdoctoral work, it doesn't matter. Do you have one, two, maybe three teachers who instantly pop into your mind that changed everything for you? It doesn't mean you became a biologist because this biology teacher was fantastic, but that biology teacher inspired you. Maybe you were a terrible student, me, and suddenly you got a great one somewhere, and it inspired you to do well because you didn't want to disappoint that teacher. So, like my great teachers, my first great one was a man named Lee Anderson. He was a geology teacher and he did the most ridiculous things in class, but his passion was so palpable about rocks that we didn't want to disappoint him, right? I tell this story in the book about he would put up these sneeze boards between lab partners so that we wouldn't sneeze on each other and pass germs. And this was long before COVID, right? And the real reason was so we didn't cheat because his classroom management was so unique. He paired the least inspired students, me, with the brightest students who just naturally like school. And those people sort of mentored us along, but he didn't want us cheating off their test. And before a test, we would have to pound on the desk, right? And we would pray. Should I tell the story, Joshua?
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean it's incomprehensible by modern sensibilities, right? To Allah, the rock god. You couldn't do that today, but that was yesterday. So don't judge today by yesterday, everybody, right? And we would pound on the desk and it would go like that. We'd be there with our sneeze boards. Allah, 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 ah, and 30 kids chanting. And he got it. Somehow we believed that if we did this ridiculous chant, we wouldn't forget anything he had taught us. And you know what it really was? Is that right after the first test, we realized he expected greatness from us. And we didn't want to disappoint him. So even students like me actually went home and studied, Mohs scale of hardness from talc to diamonds. We didn't want to disappoint him, but he made it so fun that he was a great one. I have so many other stories. I have Edward Pearson, the meanest OG English teacher ever. And today, when I write, because that's what I do for a living, right? In my company, I write all this curriculum. My grammar and punctuation are precise. And it would not have been that way unless this man had tortured me in middle school, right? Uh, in college, Dr. Ben Richardson just inspired me to speak openly and honestly about topics that are a little sensitive by today's standards and to have logical, reasonable, fact filled conversations without anybody being offended. So many great ones. And so you need to be a great one if you work with young people in any capacity. And I tell all these stories in the book and I give practical ways to be a great one.
I think this is a very important point that you're bringing up with these past teachers of yours within the context of elevating education, because that's elevated mind, elevating education. Because
Right.
in our age currently, there's, let's say, movements to do the opposite. To do the opposite, to grade more on curve, to lower standards, to make it easier to get passing grades. Everyone gets a C or above because it seems like incentives are set up to reward worse and worse performance, and rather to incentivize teachers going easier and easier on students to not expect excellence. In fact, to expect the opposite of it, to still get them past that into the current grade. Hence, depending on demographic, as many as half, if not a majority, of children in a given grade are not anywhere near where they need to be with mathematics or with their reading and comprehension skills, much less writing, so on and so forth. And so, what this book is it's often thought that if someone is having burnout or let's say anxiety or difficulties, you need to go easier. But what I think the elevating education perspective is instead of going softer and making easier, you recover from these things by doing the opposite, by raising your standards while also making it entertaining and fun and interesting. I think the key point that you said is we didn't want to disappoint him.
Yeah, true. I think everything you just summarized could come down to one word: rigor. American education, especially in public schools, has let rigor just disappear because it's not fair. You might hurt somebody's feelings. And like you said, then everybody gets a C or above. As I write about in the book, I walk into a lot of high schools, thousands of them. It feels like every year, thousands of them. And we poll, whether it's me or one of my employees, we poll every student, what's your GPA? It's something that happens near the beginning of whatever our workshop is on. And it turns out that more than 90% of them are running around with above a 3.0 GPA. That is statistically impossible. And if you're watching and listening to this podcast, you're an adult, you're not 15 years old. So you know that you had to work for your grades. But these students just get the grades no matter what. Recently, you probably saw in the news there was a teacher in Nashville, and she very publicly quit at a school board meeting, went viral because she refused to just pass her students along. If we allow the system as teachers to just pass kids along, we're going to pay the price when real world consequences for those students hit. We're not getting them ready for anything. I employ people. So many of us employ people. How are you going to employ somebody who can't read as an adult, who can't do math if your job requires that, who can't write, and they just rely on AI, right? There's no point in it. I won't hire any of those people. And I know a lot of business owners who won't hire them. Oh, yeah, on the surface, it's all fine and good. But underneath it, our pool of talent is so small of young people coming out of college because they're still not capable, which brings us to the college question. The exact same thing is happening at the university level. I I might be a little wrong here, but I think it's Northwestern. I'm based in Chicago, in case you can't tell by the flag behind me, right? And I'm very proud of my city and the beauty and the heritage. Not so proud of the politics or the education system, right? But those are two different things. Northwestern, right here, an Ivy League school, it might be University of Michigan, so it's not far, just over that way, has decided that next year's freshman class, they won't get grades. Yeah, because somebody's feelings might get hurt. And what it really is they know that they're admitting all the Ivy Leagues. I'll talk about the University of California system in a minute. Their kids are coming in, they're freshmen, they're undergraduate freshmen, and they are doing math and reading at the sixth grade level. Just recently, and you know this, Joshua, over 1,000 professors in the California system wrote a letter to their board saying, please, we're begging you, reinstate the SAT because all we are doing is remediating. We're supposed to be teaching college level work and we're still teaching algebra. This is ridiculous. How are we setting our youth up for success when they become adults at 23, 24, if they manage to graduate college? Who's going to hire them? I'm not going to hire them. Nobody's going to hire them unless we just want, not even mediocrity, unless we just want crap, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, every system is held captive by the lowest common denominator. Every universal system where all are involved and all are subject to it. Who is the worst performing 20%? In every area of society, everyone has to follow those rules. So it's anti-excellence. And I will regularly see stories about such and such doctor committing malpractice. There's another viral story right now about this one particular clinic that was injecting the wrong, let's say, chemical or solution into epidural patients, and it's resulting in paralysis. And we see stories like that. We see stories of this commercial vehicle crashing, or this airline, or this disaster, that disaster. And if you look into it, its minimum viable competence was not present. Um, and it seems like this idea of the Peter principle or the Dilbert principle, right, where individuals are promoted to their, let's say, they're promoted to just above their highest level of competence, and now they're incompetent. It's sort of that has now been done, let's say, universally amongst all education systems and all promotion systems, and even many industries and workplaces. And this book is for teachers who hate that. Like, you got here to teach, not to babysit for X number of hours a day, kind of be a caregiver, as many parents are, or rather, many teachers often have to, because the public school is one of the only places where some of these kids in certain districts don't have domestic violence in their entire day. And I regularly talk to teachers in my line of work, and they say that sometimes they're a police officer, they're a psychologist, they have to be a therapist, and they have to be a surrogate mother or father to a lot of these kids. And it's like getting an A plus studying is often the last thing on these kids' minds. It's like getting through the day without being bruised or cut is one of their highest priorities for these kids. And again, in a universal system where everyone is subject to all the same rules, that teacher is not going to be able to focus on helping the genius level student with the highest IQ of the entire district get what that kid needs because it's a triage situation. How did we get to the point where education is like an emergency department triage system?
I might disagree. I don't disagree with your premise at all. What I'm going to say is that it would be nice to be able to wave a magic wand and fix the entire public school system and maybe some private schools as well. The reality is that the teachers' unions are not allowing that. There's no way. The system is there to support ideology, but let's have that conversation after this one. So the reason I might disagree a little bit, Joshua, is that you can change the system from the inside out because trying to change it from the outside in right now is way too complicated in our society. And so my mission with elevating education, one great educator at a time, is exactly what the title says. If you are great enough, you can remove the fear the student has while they're in your classroom. Yeah, going to school, going back from school, depending on the neighborhood, there's a lot to worry about. Is there food on the table? What kind of violence will I run into? Your job as a teacher, as an educator, is to create a space in your classroom that is safe. But I don't mean, oh, it's a safe space and you're feeling, how do you feel today? You know what? I don't really care how you feel. I'm going to change how you feel right away. And that's what the book is about, which means this classroom is going to be a place you want to be. It means I'm going to expect greatness from you, but I am going to show you how to be great. A lot of now listen, a lot do, but a lot of teachers, especially the older the student, once they get into late middle school and high school, and certainly at the university level, they forget to show their students how to learn. If you're going to give an assignment, don't assume they know how to do it. They probably don't. Model it with them, walk them through it. Whatever you have to do, you have to teach them how to be great. I don't know if history teachers give a term paper once per year any longer, but if you don't, you should. But you can't just assign a term paper and think a kid knows how to write a term paper. You better start with small assignments throughout the year, building up their writing skills so that they're ready to do that. You have to demand the excellence and reward that excellence. When you're demanding rigor and you're showing them how to accomplish that rigor, you know what? Nonsense disappears in your classroom. Misbehavior disappears. Your most disruptive student, as I write about in the book, becomes your most mildly disruptive angel. You can win any student over and including a whole class. If you're listening to this, I want you to think about Stand and Deliver, the movie, right? In the book, Jaime Escalante. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but his lessons don't change. And that's what great ones do. You inspire rigor, but you show them how to do it. And so back to my point is we can change the culture. I'll take it a step further. And I talk about this again in Elevating Education, one great educator at a time. Shameless plug. The point is, I want you to read it because I know it's going to resonate with you, is the point. Everybody who's reading it says, I couldn't put it down. It ended up a quick read because they're really enjoying it. But I totally forgot my point. I got so excited about Jaime Escalante.
Oh, this is good. Yes. So
Yeah.
this is what I said. So I said earlier that in some of the most difficult situations where there is disruption from students, where there is something like anxiety, or even up to the point of potentially burnout on behalf of the teacher, the answer is not to go easier on everyone. It's in the opposite direction. Is to raise your standards, demand more, and not accept that. oh, okay, you just want to fight, you want to have your clique, you want to disrupt the class, you want to yell, you want to shout, you want to do all these things, do not accept that behavior. Have this be perhaps one of the only places in this kid's life, these children's lives, where they are held to standards and there is accountability.
Yeah. So, and when you do that, there's at least one other teacher in the building who feels like you do. And so, what I write about in Elevating Education is form a greatness gang. Yes, bring gangs back to school, only greatness gangs. Get that one teacher, and once a week, meet with them, and for 30 minutes, say, what did I do great this week? And then, what did my students do that was great because I inspired them to greatness? And then find another teacher and another teacher. And before long, you'll have a little subculture of great ones. And suddenly, the kids will know who the great ones are. Then issue a newsletter. The English teacher will write it because that's what they like to do, or the social studies teacher. Administration might complain, but they'll be like, I guess I can't complain because you're only talking about good stuff. There's one thing not allowed in the greatness gang, right, Joshua? Bitching. No bitching allowed. You're not there to complain. There's get enough of that in the faculty lounge. You're there to talk about how to inspire each other and them and great lessons like the meta lesson, right? We can talk about meta lessons. And at some point, I want to talk a little bit about the rigor on themselves because you said that as you summarized, we have to make the students actually work and earn their grades. And there's a way around that, even if you're not allowed to fail them, and that's in the book as well. But sometimes it's about the rigor on yourself as well. I have so much in my head here to say.
You should write a book.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I did. I did. Yeah, I did. And listen, if anybody is like contemplating, should I work with Joshua or should I not? I'll put a shameless plug in for Joshua Lisec Ghostwriting. This was the most fantastic process, Joshua. I have to thank you so much. Yeah, I had some stuff written, but man, you just yanked every story out of my head. You helped organize it all, and the whole process was so enjoyable. And I'll say that I'm not a big fan of therapy. If you need therapy, write a book and you'll never need therapy again, and you'll just get it all out there. So I'm very proud of the work we've done. So thank you.
Excellent. I'm pleased to hear that, and it's
Yeah,
my pleasure.
yeah.
What was the process like from your perspective, like from the very beginning, from the idea to the direct messages exchanged, etc.?
It was nuts. It was a whirlwind of activity. I texted you on some random night at some restaurant I was at in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. Um, I just I saw something you had posted on X, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to this guy. And I sent you this text. I introduced myself, and I got back to my hotel room, and like 46 minutes later, you wrote, "This sounds like civilization altering work. Let's talk." And the following day, we were on a Zoom, and boom, we started doing this. And I laid out a plan that I wanted this done in 6 months. And sure enough, this book, we had this thing written, Joshua, in probably 4 months. In the last 2 months, we're just tweaking and fixing and recording and covers. And sometimes I know that I uh, went a little bit against where you wanted to go, but you listened to what I wanted as an author. I really wanted a book that everybody could read because let's be honest, and maybe some of you are thinking about writing a book. For me, I'm writing to educators who a lot of them are in the teachers union and love the teachers union. Now, a lot of them don't, whether you want to admit that or not. Some of you are just in the teachers union because you have to be and you keep your mouth shut. Otherwise, you become this little pariah at school. But anyway, so I wanted to write a book that everybody could read and give real world solutions to the problems of what's going on in schools today when you have to work within the boundaries and how can you take their words and almost use them against them and still demand rigor. But so back to the story. So I know sometimes I went a little against that, but I think as I go forward and we do more books down the road, I think I'll be a little more direct. But this is for everybody. So if you're wondering, just so the process was was really fun. I spent a lot of time editing and writing and sending you things, Joshua, and then you making them wonderful and beautiful and then reading the parts where you just took my interviews. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was brilliant. So it was I'm giving away the secrets, but yeah, it was so fulfilling the entire process. And I think we're going to
And
make a
what
difference, and that's the whole point.
Mhm. Yes, I think so, and I believe the key, as you have said, is there are these immense systems level, let's say, issues and concerns that cause so many teachers to have this. But what the book is it presents this known issue, set of issues, and its symptoms and its consequences, and then empowers individual teachers to do something about it in your classroom. So maybe you can't alter the entirety of the system, but you can do this one set of things in your classroom, the way you set it up, the way that you teach, the way that you teach how to learn, not just teaching the subject matter, but here's how to learn the subject matter for each of the students. That will make it easier for them eventually as they go on and enter life, and that way you as a teacher become one of the great ones. And that is an exciting pitch that is indeed civilization altering, because there are kids who could have done their best, but they didn't have a great one. Well, now you get to be that. So now they can be their best. And there are kids who would have, let's say, to use some religious language, perhaps would have embodied or lived out a generational curse, and you're the teacher who breaks it just in a matter of a few months with them in your class. That's pretty exciting stuff.
That's truly the goal of every educator, to break the generational cycle. Now, that cycle could be violence, it could be poverty, abuse, all of them put together. Art, when I became a teacher, I was asked by this rather wealthy man, Jim, why do you want to become a teacher? And I said, well, Jerry, I, I want to change the world. And he laughed at me directly in my face. And it really hurt. And I thought, you know what? Well, I'm not going to hold up the bird, but you know what I'm thinking. Um, and then I set out to do that exact thing. And over 40 years and over 3 million students later, I know how many young people we have broken the generational cycle for. And I think every teacher, that's our sacred mission. And so we are changing the world. That's our ripple effect, right? But if you're burned out and you're just going through the motions, nobody's going to remember you, right? You'll just be a ghost in their memory. But if you are truly still inspired, even if you have a faint spark, you owe it to reignite that spark, because that's the point, Joshua, to break those cycles. My Elevated Minds works 99% with first generation low income students across America. And if somebody doesn't know what first generation means, it's they would be the first person in their family to attend college or university, which means there are a lot of generational cycles that have to be broken. It is so rewarding to provide them the opportunity for real world success in everything that we do. And the path for all that is laid out in elevating education. And so if you're a teacher and your mission hasn't changed, even though you're a little burned out and beat down by the system, or you work with young people in any capacity and you want to be a great one and you want to help break those cycles, well, now's the time. Read the book. I lay it all out for you. But you know what? Those cycles are not just for low income students. That is, do not take this wrong, because there are generational cycles in middle class families and wealthy families as well. And some really maybe tougher cycles to break in some ways. Entitlement is a good one, because entitlement walks along with everybody, no matter where you were born. If you just have an entitlement mentality, you might need a rigorous teacher to help you realize that the world's not going to hand you anything. I don't care if you're a trust fund baby. Um, Hopefully your mom and dad aren't just going to hand it to you on a silver platter and you're going to go earn it for yourself. So there's a lot in there for that.
This is where there is a critical wisdom for all teachers of all backgrounds, because some of the hardest aspects of the job for a teacher are nothing to do with the children, and it is the entitled, overbearing parents, helicopter parents, bulldozer parents, let's say, and I contributed to the foreword to the book because my mother was an educator, first professionally in the public school system, and then she had her own, let's say, a homeschool consultancy where she would plan parents who were going to be transitioning children already in the school system, public or private, into homeschooling. She would design their curriculum and their track and do testing and all these sorts of things so that they could up level the rigor, the academic rigor, particularly with classical education, Greek, Latin, rhetoric, as speech debate, so higher, let's say, levels of algebra and calculus, etc. This is what she did. So I got to see firsthand her working in that world and the problem of parents. When there wasn't an issue related to the children's home environment directly, be it like, let's say, violence, although she did become a special education teacher again, um, um, with regards to intervention specialist, high numbers of migrant children, not inner city children. Those are the ones who were sent to her, and they were supposed to be in fourth, fifth grade, let's say, but they had a pre-K, let's say, English level reading ability because they came from a family who had literally come to the United States weeks ago and they spoke no English, and so they would be sent to her. And so she was, for many, the first American that they ever got to know. And she understood her role as sort of an ambassador for the United States, this new host country. And that's what every teacher is like for students. You as a teacher, a lot of you, you're with the kids as much as, if not more than the parents are. Parents who homeschool get 10,000 plus hours back with their kids, but those who don't, those 10,000 hours belong to the system. They belong to the government. They belong to the school system. And so what that kid has as role models, mentors, etc., is up to you, frankly. Hence the call to be a great one and to raise your own standards as an educator.
Exactly. Your mother was truly a great one. You and I have had many conversations about her, and yeah, she was a great one. I wish I would have had the opportunity to meet her and to learn from her. I mean, you've told me many of her stories, but um, parents, right? We write a lot about entitled parents, not just entitled students, and the entire gentle parenting trend that is not helping anyone either. I've spoken with a lot of educators in the last year specifically about this topic. It it's hard because they want you to be everything to their student except the person who holds their students accountable. You have to
Real
do
quick,
everything
Jim,
else though.
can you define gentle parenting? Because a lot of these adjectives and methodologies, there's like permissive parenting, there's gentle parenting. The way that I think of it is that gentle parenting is maximally permissive parenting. Imagine the worst permissive parent that you can possibly imagine, and that's where gentle parenting begins. That's where it begins. Gentle parenting and its consequences has been a disaster for the human race. I'll say that. But what in your understanding, how can you tell a kid has been gentle parented, let's say?
Uh, okay. I'm going to weigh my words carefully, not about the definition, but about the examples I have in my head at the moment. So we all have friends and neighbors and colleagues, and they have children of other ages. And so I have two or three families in mind right now, and gentle parenting looks like this. Their child, as a toddler, just cries all the time because they've never been told no. And when somebody else tells them no, they don't know how to process that. When somebody else puts a boundary on them, like, um, no, you should not pick up that lit cigarette right now. Like the kid is reaching for an ashtray and somebody has a cigarette or cigar, and the kid's just going to grab it. And you say, no, no, don't do that. And the kid freaks out immediately. That child has never been told no on a daily basis. Well, it's our job as a parent to set boundaries, not just about safety, but about anything. At a little bit older level, it's literally allowing them to do anything they want, making sure that their feelings are okay. oh, that's okay. You you didn't mean to do that. Blaming kids for everything else. It's just allowing full uh permission to do anything they want at any time with no boundaries. And then they get to school and they have no boundaries in a classroom, and then the teacher has to manage all of that. Yeah, I mean, feel free to elaborate on it. It's just so frustrating to me.
That sounds about right. Yes, they're the gentle parenting strategists, so-called, and their methodology is something like your job as the parent or caregiver is to always find a way to get the kid what they want. That's what this sort of gentle thing is, and it's like, okay, so you want to do something dangerous. Okay, how can we find a way to do something dangerous as opposed to just simply no? No, we're not doing that. Or no, that's not okay to do that. No. And just simply having no as a complete sentence. It is sort of enabling fragility and creating a codependent emotional relationship, I think. It does create codependence because the parent can't be okay unless the kid is okay. Because the child's emotions become your responsibility at that point. If the kid is upset, it's your job as a parent to make them not upset. You see how that works. So the kid is taught from a very early age to get what you want, just be an emotional terrorist.
I I have a friend who has some young children, and I'll have to tell him or not tell him to listen to our conversation today, Joshua. I've tried to talk to him, but let's just be direct. It is exactly what you just said. His children are emotional terrorists, and he is only okay if they are completely okay. And so the least a bit of whining or crying, he just gives in. Almost whatever it is, at whatever age it is, from 2.5 to 8. The 8-year old has somehow not quite that way, but the one in between, the 5-year old and the 2.5-year old, nothing can get done because they're always screaming about something if they don't get their way. If they get their way, it's literally maybe 2 minutes later that they need something else to go their way. You can't be told no. What's going to happen when they hit the classroom and their teachers tell them no? And I expect teachers to tell them no and to set limits and boundaries. Maybe we do a book on gentle parenting, huh?
Oh yeah, I think that might be that would certainly can help to de-radicalize, I think, and give parents sanity back. And I think a lot of them. I think it's also because we have a generation now where first time parents are older and older and older, and they're having fewer and fewer kids. So we now have a situation where more women over 40 are having children than women under 20. Which is a first. We'll probably speciate now as in the species. We'll probably evolve, frankly, as a result of our new strategies. But a lot of these women who are having children, the first time they've ever interacted with a child is when they've birthed it and it's in their arms for the first time.
Wow.
Their
Yeah,
first
I
interaction
guess
with the child.
I do see that. I don't know if it's as bleak as that. I'm sure there are statistics that would pan that out, but I see that people are, I mean, we know the stats are people are waiting to get married and waiting to have children. And yeah, I don't know what do you, Joshua, why do you think it is that when this happens, when you have a child older in your mid to late 30s or even 40s, why do those parents often become so much more lenient than somebody who has their first child at 19, 21, 23? Why? What do you think that
Yeah.
is?
I think it's a combination of fear and fragility. Like we only have this one kid, so we got to do everything right. Versus, let's say, older school parenting methods. Think your great grandmothers and beyond generation. How many kids did they have? Four,
Yeah,
14,
14. Yeah, right.
right? Yeah, great again, great grandmothers and above. Think like the industrial period, and then before that, my dad, my dad was one of two. My grandparents, they were each one of three or four, but they're the great grand one of 12, one of nine, one of seven, one of eight, let's say. And in
Yeah.
those numbers, the amount of time and attention that is practically able to be granted to any one child is significantly smaller by just by the nature of fractions. So you don't have time to play this codependent nonsense with the child versus if they have a monopoly on your parenting and you only have the one, or you do this thing where you're like, oh, let's space them apart and be progressive. And you have a teenager and a toddler, which we are seeing more and more of, anecdotally and also statistically. I think it's a practical situation, and also we're not in a society where no is acceptable now. Um, the political correctness of the 80s and 90s has become our new default, frankly. Like that's just
Yeah.
like the operating system. Woke, this idea of woke and wokeness are just like a little bit further than that. But political correctness is now normal, and politically correct doesn't have no in its vocabulary, right?
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. I think that I would like to add, I agree with everything you said. It was very interesting insights. Um, I would like the fathers of the world, no matter what age you and your partner have your child, you and your wife or baby mama have your child. I'd like you to start using the word no firmly and often, with love, of course, but it
Make
really.
teachers' jobs easier.
Exactly. For the love of God, could the fathers please step up and just be a man about it? And I'm going to get a lot of flack on this one, but I don't really care. Um, a mother's job is more nurturing. You know, I had a very strict father and a very nurturing mother, and it was a perfect blend. And yeah, I won the parent lottery. Good for me. But I had a disciplinarian and I had somebody, my mother, who thought I was the most perfect thing in the world, but the only one who ever spanked me was my mother, like full on spanking. Because I think if my father had done it, I probably wouldn't be here to do this. So they left that to my mother to do, and it only happened twice, but nevertheless. But I have something else. You talked about how many children did our grandmothers and great grandmothers have. It reminds me of something that I teach my students about social media, but I think we should put this on parenting and even on teachers in the classroom. I call it the grandmother test. Maybe today we need to make it the great grandmother test. So in social media, when we work with students on some workshop, life skills, something like that, we make them open their phones and do the grandmother test. Is go through your posts in the last 6 months. Is there anything up there that if your grandmother or great grandmother saw, she would not approve? She would cringe and say, honey child, take that down. That is not right. That is not helping you. That is not helping anybody. There is nothing in there that helps the world or helps you. That's a record forever. And even your grandmother would be smart enough to know that. And so I think with parenting, long as we're on the topic of great ones, right? Maybe if parents thought, would my grandmother approve of what I'm doing? Now, look, if you had a really shitty grandmother, then no. Okay. Then find a different example. You know what I'm talking about right now if you're listening to this. Don't make excuses. You know the essence of what I'm saying. Would a reasonable, moral adult approve of the way you are parenting, or would they say you're creating a wild child that will be impossible in the classroom? And then how are the teachers who spend the majority of time with your kids going to turn them into decent citizens of the United States of America? Are we doing that? The grandmother test. Let's use it.
So yes, so I think this is where younger people sort of allow their grandparents or parents to sort of be thought to be put out to pasture, let's say, when you put socio-politically, like, oh, they're older, they're conservative, they don't get it, they're not with it, they're not progressive. That's how you think until you have a kid, and then you realize that your parents and grandparents were right about a lot, um, and that we put away that advice and that thinking, that worldview at our great expense and detriment. And we do need to, let's say, get that back out. It's sort of like perpetual rebelliousness of the youth, and we're going to do things differently. And there's a really popular show called Bluey that is utterly subversive of traditional values, but it's really sweet about it. It regularly depicts the grandparents of everyone being sort of backwards, old school, anti-progressive, and of course the progressive 50-50 type of equal partner type relationship that the mom and dad have, which is she's in charge. Okay, if you're equal partners, the woman's in charge. That's just how it is. They sort of model that relationship and show how it's better, it's more progressive the way that they parent versus the way that they were parented. So anti, let's say, discipline messages are rife in the culture, and that creates fertile ground for gentle parenting, which makes it so much harder on teachers to do their job. I think a great message of this book and the worldview that it communicates is to make teaching actually be able to happen. It's like the learning environment can be made as effective as possible for nurturing the intelligence and the formation of a child than even just what it is that's being taught.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking, and I'm like, I'm really trying to take in all the words, and I was thinking about Bluey because, like, I don't have little kids anymore, right? But we have a dog. My wife and I have a dog, and she's a little tiny 5 pound Maltese, and she watches TV, and her favorite show to watch is Bluey. Now, I've never sat and listened to anything that's on, but if I leave the house, I put Bluey on. I hopefully my little Coco isn't absorbing all of that. But it's really can are we going to take thousands of years of successful rearing of children and just throw it out the window because of progressivism and like we don't want to hurt feelings? Well,
Yes.
you're gonna yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, we
Well,
are.
it's a horrible idea. If you're a teacher and you're a great one, you're battling that every day, and that's why elevating education one great educator at a time will help you, even if you already are a great one. But if you're not, take a chance on it and read it. But if you're a parent, our job is to create a successful society, a successful planet, a successful human race. Well, maybe everything that you've been told is so hard when it goes against your worldview. Maybe it's not right in some places, and maybe you could just be open to and listen to the other side and give it a shot for 6 months and see the behavior difference in your children, right? You do it one day, it's just going to be nothing but fighting. But if you did it over the course of this academic year, even though you're the parent, you might be surprised at what happens, at how much better your relationship is when you are the parent and they are the child and not 50-50. Just like you said, a marriage is 50-50. Somebody has to be in charge. I mean, yeah, my wife and I are 50-50 in terms of how much we love each other and our respect for each other. But ultimately, somebody has to make final decisions on certain things. And I want successful marriages too. And so, that would help society
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I think in aversion to hierarchy, we realize quickly as a society that that doesn't work. That's why
It doesn't.
SATs were done away with. That's why grading on the curve has happened, and the result is catastrophic. And so I like elevating education because of that first beautiful little word about elevating, as in raising your standards, raising your expectations, and in a difficult, near burnout education environment the resolution for that, the solution looking for is not to go easier, it's to go higher, let's say.
Yeah, higher, not harder. It's higher to rise above it. The nonsense that is being forced upon you by so many mandates that just don't make any sense.
And the best way to elevate your education as an educator, of course, is to go to Amazon, okay, and you type in elevating education, go to books, and there is
Yeah, I'm going to add in, I discovered the other day, uh, a colleague was looking for my book and we happened to be on the same Zoom call. And years ago, somebody wrote some book, Elevating Education, that I hadn't seen it. I don't think it has any sales or reviews. So make sure it's Elevating Education, one great educator at a time, or type in my very simple last name, Giovannini, And I really want you to read the book because I know it will inspire you and it will lead you to greatness, even if you already are a great one.
That's right. It was a blast to work on, with you, Jim. And of course, it'll be a blast for all of you educators and home educators also to read, to raise the standards and to raise expectations and ultimately to raise behavior so that your life as an adult, be it a parent or educator, is actually easier because your kids become easier to deal with because you're treating them like adults in training.
Exactly. Exactly. I know we're wrapping up, but I want to add one more little thing if I can. There's a whole section in there for everybody who reads the book, and I call it my pies framework. And while I'm not going to dig all the way into it, it's just an acronym. And the theory is that you have to take care of yourself first, what my father always called numero uno, and what I like to now call as positive selfishness. You have to take care of yourself physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. And if you are not taking care of yourself in those four aspects, how are you going to affect the lives of those you're influencing, whether you're a teacher, a coach, or a parent? So I lay out this nice framework for you to maybe reclaim some time in your life from other places that you know you could reclaim it. We help you find that time and think about what can I do physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually each week to balance and center myself. So listen, I'm not against feeling great and mental health, but I'm all about physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual health. So I want to help you do that as well. You have to have this balance so that you can help others become great as well. And I want to mention that, and maybe that'll inspire a few people more to read about it.
And it can all happen at Amazon, Elevating Education, One Great Educator at a Time by Jim Giovannini. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Jim. Thank you for your
Been
time
great.
today, and it'll be great. I appreciate all the kind words you said about the Lisec process, and I'm sure other people will
Absolutely.
pick up on that. And the person
Yeah.
watching this, we'll do one of these here in a few months about your book.
Yeah, that would be great. Joshua, thank you so much for your time today, and just thank you for everything.
My pleasure. Take care.
Okay.